Hello everybody, welcome back to another video here on my channel. In today's video, we are going over all the books that I read in the month of September, which books I loved, which ones maybe I've rated 5 stars, and also potentially which ones I did not actually get to or even enjoyed. I actually have a pretty hefty stack, minus the fact that one of these books is from my TBR that I did not get to, which is kind of sad, but that's okay. It is on next month's TBR or for the month of October, and I'm so excited to potentially get to it in the month of October. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get into my monthly wrap up. First, let me go over the books that were on my TBR for the month of September. I'm gonna start with the one and only book that we did not get to, and it is Ender's Game. Like I said, this is on October's TBR. That's kind of a little spoiler if you watch all my videos, but I just decided to prioritize a different book over this one just because it had been on many TBRs before, and I do really want to get into this, and I'm very excited about this book. So even though I didn't get to it, I at least accomplished every other book on this TBR for this month, and also I had another book that I get to put into my wrap up, and I feel like that was a great accomplishment because it was a lot of books in my opinion. Then we have Clockwork Prince. This is the book that I decided to prioritize over Ender's Game because it had been on so many TBRs before and I finally got to it. I did finish this book, however I did start it 2 days before the month ended, and because of that I did finish it the 1st of October, so you don't get to hear about this book until my wrap up for October. I'm so sorry. Next I have House of Roots of Ruin. I did accomplish this and I can't wait to tell you guys about it. And then we also have The Lightkeeper's Bride, book number 2 in the Mercy Falls series. I did get to this one and I loved it. I did get to One of Us is Lying. We will be talking about this book in today's video, so I'll just leave it for then. And finally, the last book on my TBR was Iron Flame, and I did accomplish this. And if you see my reading vlog, then you know my thoughts fully on this and what I rated this book. If you haven't seen my reading vlog for this, it was posted I think like 3 videos before this. Moving into my actual wrap up, let's go through all the books that I did tackle, all my thoughts, everything like that. You already know. On the 28th of August, I started this book and I didn't finish it until the 1st of September. It's one of those that I read majority of it in August, but I'm just gonna count it since I did finish it in September. It is Don't Let Her Stay. This is a thriller. I really enjoyed this one. Again, I feel like most thrillers I really enjoy. I did rate this one at 4 stars. I really like that concept of this teenage girl kind of moving into the family, and there were so many things, like little twists, and there were a few things that I kind of called, but the ending just made me feel a certain way. And there were some comments saying like, oh, I need therapy after this book, or I just feel icky, and I kind of agreed with those. It was just a little bit like, it makes you think. And it's one of those like, did I make the bad decision? And even though you're reading a completely fictional story, well, at least I hope it's fictional, and also the fact that it has nothing to do with you or your personal life, it still makes you feel like you were the one to do something and potentially regret it. That's all I'm gonna say about this. I really enjoyed this, and for picking it up thinking it was a Sherry Lapina book, which I didn't remember her at the time. I just knew what her books looked like, and this looks similar. I just, like I said, I didn't remember her name. This one I felt like was pretty decent, and I called, like I said, a few things, so there are still some parts that I felt like it was a little predictable, but for the overall gist of it, I felt like this was a great pacing and just overall a really good book, even if some of the reviews are not very happy with it at all. Next, on the 1st and going all the way till the 12th of September, we of course hopped into Iron Flame. Let me just tell you, if I loved Fourth Wing so much, I wasn't expecting to love this book as much as I did, because everybody said this book was just not as good as Fourth Wing. I guess I'm the really small percentage because I absolutely love this book, and I found it so much more enjoyable than Fourth Wing. I loved how the romance for the most part was more kind of like on the back burner. It wasn't like every single moment, because they were obviously, I can't say too much, but separated. It wasn't as many dirty scenes, let's just say. It is what it is. I don't necessarily like reading about that. And then of course there were some things about their relationship that did annoy me, like the bickering back and forth. They could not figure out their life, and I felt like it was more Violet this time than like a mix of them. However, I understood if it was the dynamic of by the end of the book their relationship would grow closer together, and just so many things like that. I understood that. There were so many things in this book with friendship that I really enjoyed, or just like events, and I felt like it was so jam-packed, like twist on every single chapter that made me want to keep reading. There were a few slow spots in the book, but overall I felt like the entire book was just really great pacing, at least for me. I really loved the war stories, or like the military side of it. I enjoyed that. The ending though, however, this book was the one that when I left a review, I seen somebody else's review and they said, I'm gonna need to go lie down. That's exactly how I felt. I just felt like I needed to take a moment. There were so many emotions at the end of this book, and I don't know, that ending, I'm so excited for Onyx Storm. I have no clue when I'm gonna get into that, or even when I go pick it up, maybe for my birthday tomorrow. Overall, I am so happy with Iron Flame and how it turned out. I was not expecting to love it as much, and I rated this 5 stars. This was a 6-star book to me, while Fourth Wing was definitely a 5-star read. And I'm so sorry if you didn't enjoy it as much as I did. Then starting on the 13th and ending on the 15th, we hopped into One of Us is Lying. That is because I put this finally on a TBR. It's one of those books that sat on my shelf for so long. I never wanted to pick it up. I never wanted to read it, and I just unhauled, I can't remember the other book from her, but there was a standalone from her that I had that I unhauled, I think last year. I thought about unhauling this, but I wanted to give it a try. I wanted to give it a shot. And when I first got into it, I was like, oh, it's not that bad. This isn't that bad of a book. I felt like it was okay. Definitely not something that I think I would have enjoyed no matter what, but there were some things that started happening that I just didn't enjoy reading, and I just found it a little too predictable, and I think it's so much younger for me than normal. Most YA books I really enjoy, I really love. However, I just felt like for this in particular, it wasn't done as well as I was hoping. I know so many people love this book and just this author in general, but I think definitely this is my one and done from her. I think I did all that I needed to. I will be unhauling this. I think I ended this with a 2.5 star rating, and I hate rating books lower than a 3 star. For a while it was 3 stars, and then the more I progressed into the book, the more I was like, I'm not really enjoying this. I just want it to be over. I just want to pick up a different book. I wish it could have been better. I'm so glad I tackled it since it sat on my shelf for so many years, and I'm glad that I'm getting rid of it. I wish I maybe would have read it when I first picked it up. I think I would have enjoyed it a lot more back then. Then on the 16th of September and ending on the 20th, I picked up The Lightkeeper's Bride. This was because I knew, since I didn't like One of Us Is Lying, I knew I was gonna love Colleen Cobble's book. This is, like I said, book 2 in the Mercy Falls series. She's Christian, mystery, subplot of romance. I really enjoyed this book. I don't know if I enjoy this more than the last one. I feel like both of them are pretty much equal. Both stories individually were just so good to me. I really enjoyed them. I loved the little quotes about God. I loved the romance. I loved the male character. I loved the female main character. And in this book especially, I liked the little mystery, or like the thing that was going on. I feel like it's one of those that, because it's Christian too, it's just so like relaxing and like such a really nice romance. I don't know how to really word it, but if you're Christian or you have the same feeling that I feel like with a lot of romance books, I'm not a big romance reader, and I hate to say that. I do like the idea of romance. I like it more as a subplot, and if you're kind of like me, then you might really enjoy these books, especially if you're Christian. And I don't know, it was just fast paced. It was definitely something that I needed to make sure that I wasn't gonna maybe go into a slump, but just, you know, have another bad book in a row. And I really love her writing. I don't know why. I've just been obsessed because I keep finding these in thrift stores and in other places. I'm kind of obsessed with reading her books right now, which is kind of not necessarily a bad thing. However, my little collection of hers is slowly growing. I did rate this book 4.5 stars, just like I think I did the first one. It was either 4 stars or 4.5 as well. And then starting on the 20th and ending on the 28th, I read my final book of September, or at least the final book that I finished in the month of September. This is House of Roots and Ruin. I loved The House of Salt and Sorrows. I thought it was pretty good. I loved the 12 Dancing Sisters, the retelling. I think I listed that one as 5 stars as well. Looking back, I think it was more like a 4.5, maybe like really high 4 stars. I still really enjoyed that. However, I loved the fact that this book took the turn that it took. I loved how, like, in a way it was creepy, but like not too creepy. I don't know. I felt like I was tense at sometimes, and I really liked the story. I liked the little romance. I loved the ending, but at the same time, hello, where's book 3? I need to know the next book in this series, because that ending kind of confused me, or like I seen it slowly coming because I was like, oh, he's not in bed. But at the same time, it threw me off so much that I was like, wait a minute, hold on. How is book 3 gonna go? Because if we talk about book 1 in this book, how is the next book gonna go? I am so excited for that book. I just felt like the way I felt and how excited I was and how many pages I was reading, this was a definite 5-star read, just like the first book. When I first learned that House of Salt and Sorrows was not necessarily a standalone, but it was like a whole story in one, and then we had this book, and at the time I thought it was just a duology, and they weren't necessarily gonna be like a whole book and then split in half and made into 2 books. I was a little nervous on if I was going to like this, especially because we were reading about one of the 12 sisters. So I was kind of confused, because most of the time I don't like when authors do like spin-off series and they follow a certain group of characters from the original series. I'm not a big fan of that, and I also get bored very easily, so I thought that's how this was gonna go, and instead that's not how I felt at all. And I will be looking for the 13th child for my birthday, because I feel like I really enjoy her writing and I love her little worlds, and so far just like how she's been making her characters and also the relationships, but also adding weird twist into each book. I think she's been doing so good with the series, so I'm hoping that when the 3rd book comes out that I can get my hands on it and read it as soon as possible. And this is technically all of the books that I read in the month of September. I mean, it's not 10 books like you see a lot of the time. However, me reading 5 books and 2 of them, or at least one of them, is pretty chunky. I feel like that's pretty good. Let me go ahead and get ready for my monthly statistics. This month I did not tackle a single book for my 25 and 2025 list. I will be trying to tackle that list before the year runs out. However, I am 11 books shy from finishing that. It's not very good. So we still have 14 out of 25 books read from that list, which is 56% accomplished. I'm not very proud of that since we only have 3 months left of the year. However, I'm trying to fix that. If you've seen my TBR for October, then you'll understand how I'm trying to fix that. Here's the thing I want to talk about. I had 75 books on my physical TBR last month, at the end of last month, but then I got a couple books. And because I got a couple books, even though I read 5 books, I added to my physical TBR. Therefore, with everything that I read, I still have 73 books on my physical TBR. It's not good. I was supposed to be under 65, I do believe, or around 60 to 65 before when the end of the year comes around. And I'm going book shopping on Saturday, so in 2 days for my birthday. That's okay. I keep doing this. I feel like every year I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get down to 60, but then I go buy some books for my birthday. And maybe one year I won't, but this year's not the year. At the end of September, I had finished 37 books this year. And that's with my original book goal placed at 30 books read. However, my second book goal is at 65 books. I'm a little bit of a ways off for that 65 book goal, but I probably won't get to it, to be honest. However, at least I got to one of my book goals. My top genre for the month is still mystery. I think it was like 5 books last month. We are now at 8 books. Sci-fi is also still in second place with 5 books. For this month, I read 5 books, 2,080 pages, which is in fact the most pages I've read in a single month this year. So I'm gonna applaud myself for that. Even though I think in January or February, I read 8 books in 1 month, this is the biggest page count number month, which I had 2 5 stars this month. I will take that as a complete win. And finally, my favorite book of the month was Iron Flame. Thank you all so much for watching this video. I hope you guys all enjoyed it. If you haven't seen my TBR for the month of October or any of my reading vlogs, you can go ahead and click back on my channel and go watch any of those. I also have a reading playlist down in the description. Join my YouTube, be a part of my YouTube community. I hope to see you on another video here on my channel, and as always, God bless.